1. For starters, I am 18, almost 19, 5'7", 175 pounds, and pretty fit. My buddy Mason is 17, 5'8", and is very athletic. We live just down the street from each other and hang out a lot. So Mason and I decide to go on a picture walk, where we go somewhere in our area and take pictures on our cameras, to the lake near our house. Our goal is to get some epic sunset pictures. We go to the bridge closest to us and hang out on the rocky area under it, and eat some snacks while we wait for the sunset. Eventually, we walk to a pre-decided spot and get set up. At one point, Mason throws a football we found over the road for fun. Then sunset comes and goes, and we pack up. We start walking back. There is no sidewalk on this bridge, but for the majority of it, there is a grassy section on the lake side of the guardrail, so we aren't in the road. Then a car suddenly slows down, causing multiple cars to either nearly hit each other or go into the lake. We turn around and there's this guy wearing a red bandana on his head, like the Bloods, a white tank top and jeans sagging below his waist, and he's walking down the middle of the road. At one point, a massive pickup truck locks his front brakes and nearly smashes the dude. He doesn't flinch or stop walking. At this point, me and Mason are freaking out, and he is yelling randomly and at one point screams out my name. Please be a coincidence. Now Mason is on the phone with his mom, and I am on the phone with the police while this guy is speeding up. Keep in mind that combined, me and Mason have about $1,200 in camera gear on us. So his mom, who had been in the shower when we called, was racing to where we were, and so were the police. They took our statements and talked to the guy. They told us that he was not on drugs. This actually happened on April 20th, or 20, but was, in their words, not playing with a full deck. They let him go, and we went back to Mason's house and spent the night playing video games until we passed out. 2. This all happened to me and my boyfriend during the last weekend, only to escalate this Monday. Last Friday morning, 8:20 a.m., we were doing some last cleanings in our old apartment before finally leaving and heading to our new home. Just tidying up when someone rings the doorbell, with no warning. We didn't invite anyone. Behind the door was a small, wide-eyed and crazy smiling girl who turned out to be the new resident of the apartment. She walks casually in and offered us a deal. She helps us clean the apartment so she can move in 3 days earlier, and we give her the last key of the apartment on Monday, the day she officially lives in that apartment. Well, she helped us and it was okay, except she didn't shut up. First, it was just happy talk about how nice people we were and how clean it was already. How we are her good friends and her life is getting so much better. We thanked her and said it was okay. While she was cleaning the bathroom, my boyfriend whispered to me he had a very bad feeling about this girl. Usually I trust his intuitions, but then I thought he was just tired and irritated. Should have listened to him. Her stories then turned to somewhat dark and very disturbing. She told us without warning way too personal things. How she was self-diagnosed neural disabilities, like ADHD, to herself, because she drives sometimes too fast. How it is so hard to raise a 3-year-old by herself, and sometimes she feels something bad is going to happen to her child. Red flags raising slowly. She claimed her husband has abused her for 13 years. Then she changed it to 14 years. Now she is afraid for her child to be beaten next. She has set a restraining order on him, and is having a trial against him about domestic violence next week. She said she is pregnant but doesn't know who the father is. She said she posts everything about her tragic life on Instagram, on a public account, and lives in fear her husband finds her. She told us she works in the hospital at the ER, at the children's psychiatric section as a midwife. The worst thing was when she told us about her job as a midwife and how she once killed a baby. This really raised all my red flags and hit me straight to the weak point. I wanted to run. Well, we tried not to put too much weight on her talk. Just silently agreed that she is definitely someone we should avoid after this. At first, the deal was okay before our parting of ways. We agreed to remind each other on Sunday about returning the last key. Then came Saturday. I tried to contact her with several messages, telling where and what time we will drop the key for her to pick up, with no clue what happened and why she is not answering. The Sunday went the same. I started to have that awful feeling that something is definitely wrong here. On Monday morning, we woke up at 6 a.m. and soon headed to the train station. 7:30 a.m. she sent me a message while we were in the train on our way to the office. We were supposed to return the key. The message reads, "So how are we doing the key exchange?" I answered her, "Just like the deal goes, I'm on my way to return it to the office where you can pick it up." Not 20 minutes later, she sends a message. "I already ordered the locks to be changed. The bill will be sent to you." The rage, the fear, the panic. Train is not a good place to have a heart attack, and I felt it wasn't far to happen. We power walked to the office, showing the messages and asking what the hell this was. How can someone be so unstable to do something like this with absolutely no reason? They aborted the lock changing immediately, and our money was saved. After returning the key and telling the office worker about our deal and everything about this nutcase person, we got info she was on her way to the office. We thanked the office worker and ran to the small road, so there was no way this crazy girl could see us when driving to the office. She sent me tons of confusing messages after this incident, telling me how she will protect us if we ever needed help, how she loves us, and how all this key exchange were handled so well and professional, so no one had to drive anywhere. Well, I paid over 20 euros for her to cause me to almost have a heart attack, and almost lost my money I've saved for studying, for her to get crazy impulsive. She also sent a message on how our bread tasted good. Yeah, I forgot to pack our candies, bread, and sodas from the fridge after cleaning up on Friday. We just wanted to get out of the apartment and away from her. She posted a picture on Instagram with my pack of candies, thanking her new friends for giving her such tasty candies. What great friends she made. 3. This story starts when I was in high school. I had a crush on this guy, we'll call him Jay. He wasn't a jock, but he was very athletic, always doing flips and parkour tricks before parkour was even a thing. We talked in classes we had together, but we weren't exactly friends. I never thought in a million years he would like me the way I liked him. I was a nerd, still am. Then one day he asked me to be his girlfriend. Obviously I was a little shocked, but said yes. Things were great at first. He would meet me at the front door of the school every morning, sling my backpack over his shoulder, and take me by the hand. He would tell me how pretty I was that day and how he was glad we were dating. I'll admit I was infatuated by Jay. However, that infatuation was short-lived. We'd been dating 3 months when a new guy started at school. I was asked to show him around, make him feel welcome, and introduce him to his new teachers. Jay didn't like this at all. At the end of the new guy's first day, Jay followed him to his car and beat the shit out of him just for talking to me. The new guy went to the hospital and Jay was expelled for the rest of the year. Fast forward to the first day of school the next year, my senior year. I hadn't heard from Jay in almost 10 months, so I assumed we were broke up. But as soon as I walked through the door, Jay was there waiting on me. He took my backpack in my hand and acted like nothing had happened. This went on for about a week, and I finally had to ask why he hurt that new kid. His words still ringing in my ears to this day. "You're mine. You will always be mine. And I protect what is mine." He pulled out a ring and slid it on my finger before I knew what was happening. I stopped dead in my tracks, pulled the ring off and gave it back to him. I told him I couldn't do this anymore, and ran away. I didn't see him the rest of the day. I found out later he had fled school grounds and ran 15 miles to his home. The next morning I walk in and he's there. My attention is immediately drawn to his arm. In large infected wounds I can see my initials. He carved my initials into his fucking arm. No, wait, both arms. I'm in shock at what I'm seeing. He walks over to me and begs me to stay with him, saying if I don't, he would take his own life. Honestly, I was scared and didn't know what to do. Without another word, he slides the ring back on my finger and leads me to class. Over the next few months, I felt like a zombie. Afraid to talk to other guys, afraid to break up with Jay. The only one I could talk to is my best friend, we'll call her B. I tell her everything. B tells me to break things off, but I don't know what to do. Am I going to have to marry Jay and spend the rest of my life in misery? God, please help me. And then, just like that, my prayers were answered. I get to school one morning and Jay is waiting for me as always. but I can tell something is different. He asks for the ring back. I gladly give it to him, and he breaks up with me right then and there. I've never been so relieved. It's over. I'm free, I thought. Then I notice B waiting off to the side. J motions for her. She walks over, hugs me, and says, "No hard feelings, Kay?" Okay. J takes B by the hand, gives her the ring, and leaves me standing there to collect myself. The fuck just happened? Turns out they had been meeting after school and fooling around. I'm not even mad, just slightly flabbergasted. B asks me later that day if we're still friends. In normal circumstances, best friend cheating with boyfriend? I can't imagine we would be. But I'm so happy he's not my problem anymore that I say of course we are. I want to warn her, but she knows everything that's happened. And a part of me doesn't care enough to say anything. She stole my boyfriend after all. So whatever happens, it's her own fucking fault. They stay together, and after graduation she finds out she's pregnant, so they get married. Oddly enough, nothing crazy had happened, and they seemed happy. I lose touch with them and eventually meet and marry my now husband. It's been 5 years since high school and my dealings with the psycho boyfriend. I wake up one morning, fix a cup of coffee, and relax in my recliner while my husband gets ready for work. I turn on the local news channel where they're covering the story of a shooting, soon followed by a picture of the shooter. J. From what I gathered from the news, mutual friends and eventually B herself. She and J had separated a couple months prior. B had started seeing a co-worker in that time, which infuriated J. He went to their store one night, right before close, ran inside and began shooting at them. Luckily, nobody was hurt, and he's now doing 25 to life in prison. I think about this a lot and how easily I could have been in my friend's shoes. She's happily married now with her 3rd kid on the way. But I will never understand. After all, I had told her and all she'd seen Jay do while we were together. Why did she start dating him? 4. I am a 21-year-old woman, and I work as a cashier at an established superstore. I didn't have a car at the time of this event, so I had to take the bus to and from work. Everybody who uses public transport knows it can be hell, especially for attractive women. I am one such person. One day I get off work and I'm halfway through the bus ride home. It was a regular day, no problems, until the bus stops to pick up a man. Now everyone on the bus can instantly tell he's drunk. He was even carrying a mostly empty plastic bag of Coors Light cans, as well as a couple of other bags. He sits down on the aisle across from me and is struggling to stay upright during the ride. Whatever, I mind my own business. However, a couple of minutes later, the bus takes a wide turn, and the plastic bag in his lap drops to the aisle between the seats. The momentum causes the bag to open, and an actual gun falls out and clatters to the floor next to him. What the fuck? I notice this, as do the people sitting behind me, and a wave of anxiety immediately rushes through my body. This man is drunk and has a gun. It doesn't seem like a good combination, but I hope that it won't be a problem. Now there is a different man sitting in the seat behind me. I glanced back at him worriedly, and he nodded at me and whispered that he notices the gun too. While the drunk man across the aisle is lazily fumbling to pick up the gun and put it back into the bag, the man behind me decides to be a hero and speak up. He says, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable with you being on the bus. You have a gun." This doesn't sit well with the drunk man, and he begins to get angry. I'm sitting there nervously, knowing that it isn't a smart idea to anger someone who not only has a weapon on them, but is also very intoxicated. The drunk man glares at him and begins saying such crazy things as, "Fuck you. Don't talk to me. I buried a body last month. I'm with the forces." And other cursing. While I'm sure everybody else on the bus noticed this exchange, the driver seems to be completely oblivious. I'm sweating bullets at this point and huddling as far away from the man as I can, though it's a fruitless effort as I'm literally sitting across the aisle from him. Thankfully though, the drunk man pulled the bus cord as his stop approached. As he got up to leave, he was still going on about how he could kill everyone on the bus in a second. I'm getting scared because I don't know what this man is capable of. I don't know if he's telling the truth about having buried a person. The man behind me is calmly asking him to get off the bus, saying such things as, "God bless you," in an attempt to calm him down. The drunk guy steps off the bus, and I breathe a sigh of relief, but then I look down to realize one of his belongings, a journal, had dropped out of one of his bags and had fallen beneath the seat in front of me. Oh God, don't come back, please don't come back. Well, he does. He steps back onto the bus and retrieves the journal from the floor, all while I'm repeating in my head, "No more confrontation, please." It couldn't be that easy. The man behind me probably has assumed he was getting back onto the bus to start a fight, so he gets up and asks him to leave again. The drunk man is shouting very loudly at this point, and the bus driver isn't doing jack to get him off the bus. Eventually the man steps back off the bus and leaves, but not before sticking his head back in. He began yelling at each of the passengers, and then he looks directly at me. He's angry still, and murmurs things to me such as, "I love you. I'll fucking kill you," and other slurred things I can't understand. I'm scared, and I actually lean forward and yell at the useless bus driver to close the goddamn doors. When all is said and done and the bus drives off, anxiety bubbles over and I can't help but begin to cry. The whole situation was so nerve-wracking and nothing I had ever experienced before in my life. The man sitting behind me lightly touches my shoulder and asked if I was okay. I told him yes, and he offers me tissue paper. In the end, we both got off at the same stop and he walked me home. He was very kind about the whole situation, and I'm just glad he was there to defend everyone else on the bus, when the bus driver wouldn't. 5. It happened around 15 or 16 years ago. For reference, I was a 15-year-old female of mixed background from the UK. I went on holiday to Egypt to visit my aunt, who was at the time an English teacher there, and had been there for a few months before G, my aunt's other half, and I arrived. It was amazing going around seeing the sights and experiencing the culture and history. But I also got to see how different cultures see Westerners, particularly female ones. Now, I got used to the odd lewd and rude comment and catcall, even though I was dressed respectfully, tops to my elbows, no cleavage showing, and trousers that covered my knees, etc. I was tall for my age and looked older then. So I learned to take the jokes that men selling would make, for example. "Your wives are beautiful. I'll give you 500 camels for them." "Wife and daughter. Sorry, but no thanks." I always refer to them as my parents and vice versa, as it was easier when traveling, what with language barriers and all. And we would all laugh and carry on with our day. But I always had to keep an eye out, and my wits about me. I just got used to it. After being out there for about 2 weeks, I was pretty much used to it and brushed off anything that made me feel uncomfortable, until I was on an overnight coach from a little town heading toward Luxor. We had been traveling about looking around the usual tourist spots, and decided to travel down the Nile on a felucca, a kind of boat, overnight, for the experience of it. But when we got to our destination, there had been some mix-up with the coach tickets we had booked, and I was sitting separately from my aunt and G. But as their seats were only a few rows down and to the right, my seat was to the left, I could still see them and felt safe. Oh, how naive I was. The journey started off normal as anything. I looked out the window, read my book, all the normal stuff you do to entertain yourself on a long journey. And this was an overnight drive, so I had a long night ahead. Now, I'm normally a very heavy sleeper. I've slept through thunderstorms and police helicopter flying over my house. You get the picture. But I've always found it difficult to sleep soundly in new surroundings. Plus, the fact I don't know anyone around me made me not want to sleep. But by the time 2 a.m. came round, I was dog-tired, as I hadn't slept well the night before either, and fell asleep for a bit. As some time passed, I awoke to the feeling of someone stroking my cheek. I shrunk away from the touch, turned around to see 2 native males sitting behind me. I gave them a sour-faced look and shook my head as I did not speak the language, and didn't know what more I could do. I thought this would be enough to convey the fact that I did not like that, then sat back in my seat awake again. Unfortunately, as time went on, I drifted back off, and the next thing I knew, I felt a hand slipping slowly down past my top and trying to clumsily get into my bra. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. All I wanted to do was grab and hurt or slap his hand and start giving him a load of verbal abuse, but I couldn't. I didn't know what my rights were or how other passengers would react, as myself, my aunt, and her other half were the only tourists on this coach. I had never felt so powerless before, and being rather blessed in the chess department, from I'd say in secondary school, I was used to the odd guy or two thinking it was okay trying to grope me or give my boobs a quick squeeze. But as I lived and still live in the UK, anyone tries that I can hit and discourage them with little or no consequence. But here I felt for the first time powerless and scared. So I pulled myself away again, curled into a ball, and waited and hoped he wouldn't touch me again, or I would have to go to my auntie. Now I know there are those of you who are thinking I should have gone to my auntie and her partner from the first time, but the first time I didn't think anything of it, and after the second encounter, I was too afraid to, as I didn't want my auntie's other half to do something to him and get into trouble, but I also didn't want my auntie swapping seats with me and for the same thing to happen to her. So I braved it out until we stopped next and I told my auntie and her partner about what happened. But I think the man responsible had gone by that point. My auntie's partner was understandably pissed about it and, like I thought, wanted to do something, but we both had to calm him down and talk some sense into him, because it was my word against his, and we very much doubt that if the authorities had been called, they would have taken a foreigner's word over a native's. So for the last leg of the journey, I curled up back in my seat and wanted to sleep for the rest of my time on the coach. The rest of my time there was still more lewdness and comments, but I didn't dwell on it. Just enjoyed my time there. But as for random coach groper, let's never meet again, as I have a child of my own now. And I don't care what country I am in, you touch my baby, and I will enjoy making you regret it. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 5 True Scary Subscribers Stories, episode 75. And thank you very much to everybody who sent in stories for use in this video. If you yourself have a story you'd like to send in, then please do send it along to kingofthecities@gmail.com. You can find my email in the description of every video. And also, it's on the end card of every video too, while I'm doing my outro. If you're concerned about spelling or grammar, don't worry, just get the story down, be as detailed as you possibly can. The longer the stories are, the better. And I'll take care of any cleanup that needs to be done, so if that's a concern for you. Okay, and with that, I think I'm going to head off for now, give the old voice a rest. It's been doing surprisingly well lately. I mean, I'm still dealing with a little bit of soreness, but so far it hasn't actually gotten any worse than that, so I'm just going to assume it's a little, maybe a little bit of an infection will go away on its own, or it's just acid reflux, you know. I tend to get sore throats from time to time, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.